What's up, YouTube? I'm Guy, and today we have a news flash. Did you know that the stainless steel sports Rolex shortage is your fault? Well, according to one authorized dealer interviewed on the website watchpro.com, it is in fact your fault. I've got the article here pulled up on my phone. It is entitled, Authorized Dealer Says Rolex Hysteria is Being Driven by Flippers and Internet Forums. So this is an interview with a Rolex authorized dealer, I believe out of the UK, and his position is that, yeah, it's your fault that you can't find these watches. You're driving the hysteria. This article on watchpro.com first starts off referencing a discussion with Danny Goff, who is the owner of authorized dealer Goff Jewelers. He's quoted as saying the current demand for Rolex professional models is greater than he has seen for 30 years. Well, no shit. Of course it is. We could all tell you that. If you try to go buy a Submariner, a GMT, just about any great looking stainless steel sports watch from the Rolex catalog, you are SOL. Something that Mr. Goff does suggest in that article that probably makes a little bit of sense is that demands for models like the 2018 GMT-Master 2 and the, as he puts it, overly subscribed models such as the Daytona is in part a lifestyle trend where people want to wear the same watch all day at the office and then at the weekend on the beach or the golf course. Sure, I guess that makes sense. Rolex watches are pretty much bulletproof when it comes to when and where you can wear them. So, yeah, people want them because they're extremely versatile. Of course, why wouldn't they? That makes a lot of sense. But it wasn't actually Mr. Goff that said it's your fault that you can't find Rolex watches at the authorized dealer. That was actually Mr. David Alabaster, manager of a Cheshire-based jeweler, C.H. Moody & Son. And he thinks that the rise of internet forums has stirred up the frenzy for certain Rolex models. He does actually go on to say that the excessive demand causes prices to rise on the secondary market on sites like Chrono24 and Chrono Next. When new and boxed Rolexes are being flipped on those sites at double or more of the price that you find them at authorized dealers, it creates a vicious cycle that increases demand even more and pushes prices up to stratospheric levels. The internet and the watch forums are making people crazy, he says. I don't know if I buy that, to be perfectly honest. I don't think that the the community of watch enthusiasts is really big enough to put that much of a dent in the watch ecosystem, if you will. There's not millions of us, right? There would need to be millions and millions of us to really drive that kind of demand, because we know Rolex produces a whole heck of a lot of watches. And if watch enthusiasts and collectors are just taking a little bit of a nibble out of that entire inventory, somebody else has to be responsible for it, in my opinion. In this article on watchpro.com, Mr. Alabaster accuses people on forums of falsely accusing Rolex of restricting supplies in order to drive up prices on the secondary market. Quote, look at the watch forums and see all of those agitated, quote-unquote, victims of Rolex not making enough steel professional watches for them to get their hands on, he scoffs. First of all, I take a little bit of offense to his use of calling watch collectors that are frustrated with the inability to purchase or find the watches that they want, quote-unquote, victims. Yeah, he's coming off kind of as a jerk-off, to be perfectly honest. But he does have one point. People do accuse Rolex of restricting the supply, and I don't buy into that whatsoever. I never have. I don't really think that Rolex has a desire to drive up the prices on the secondary market. The only plausible reason for them to dry up the supply is to try to limit the gray market, and I don't think that they necessarily have a whole lot of interest in eliminating the gray market. So, I do agree with him that people do make the claim that Rolex is trying to throttle the supply, i.e. increase the demand, but Certainly, I don't agree with the way that he said it, or by calling people like you and me victims for being upset that Rolex doesn't have enough watches to go around. So then at some point in this article, the poor watch dealer there, Mr. Alabaster, goes on to complain about the gray market and flippers a little bit. He says something to the effect of, the advantages that the secondary and gray market have over Rolex ADs include being able to source their watches globally and retail them online, at the same time hiking up the secondhand prices so high that consequently there's a huge demand for these easily resold watches by many people wanting to flip them and make a quick profit. Sounds like he's a little bit butthurt. And, you know, I get it. I mean, gray market kind of frustrates me from time to time. I know it frustrates you guys from time to time. We want to be able to go into an AD and buy a watch whenever we want. And when we see them for sale at huge premiums on gray market sites, it is annoying. The difference is that we didn't buy into the Rolex business. And for him to go online to a watch journalist website and complain about this publicly is, I don't know, sort of immature. It comes off as being a whiner. This watch dealer then goes on to complain about being a small business and being allocated less watches than some of the bigger authorized dealers, both in his country and around the world. And then he talks about how people come in trying to buy watches from him and he knows they're flippers, he can sniff it out, and he's not willing to sell watches to them. There's a 75% chance that they will just immediately flip them for a profit, as he puts it. Yeah, so on and so forth. The article goes on. Basically, the long and short of it, according to this guy, is it's your fault that the demand is so high. It's your fault that you can't find these watches. You're making his life hell, I guess, and we should all apologize. I don't really know what he's looking for, but it was an interesting article, and I'll have a link to it down in the description of this video if you care to read it. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in. As always, I appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video and want to help support the channel, like, share, subscribe, all of that stuff. You can also help me out by subscribing to my social media pages down in the description of this video, and every video I do is links to my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, I would greatly appreciate that, and a big thanks to everyone that has been over there helping me out on Patreon. Finally, if you like any of the products that I've reviewed and you want to buy any of them, you can always click on my Amazon affiliate link before you make your purchase. I get a small commission, and those commissions do add up. Alright, well for today, that's going to do it. Bye now.